Reading felony counts against the former president and his co-conspirator, they call him body man, his aide, Walt Nauta. 31 of the counts against Trump are for willful retention of national defense information under the Espionage Act. Among the other counts, conspiracy to obstruct justice and corruptly concealing a document or record. The indictment is filled with extremely colorful and shocking revelations. We've learned that Trump was personally involved in packing up his many boxes containing classified documents.
I was like thinking I got too much fuel to qualify, but
were stored in various weird places.
I don't care. I'm finishing last anyway, and it's
in a ballroom and in a bathroom and a shower. The content of the classified documents included information related to foreign countries, including their military activities, nuclear capabilities of a foreign country, military contingency planning of the United States, and much more. And this stunning story that during a conversation
not as pro as you
about the subpoena issued by DOJ, Trump said this, quote, "Wouldn't it be better if we just told them we don't have anything here? Well, look, isn't it better if there are no documents?" Trump and Walt Nauta are set to be arraigned in the case on Tuesday in Miami. Rachel Maddow, it somehow gets more shocking from the unsealing of the indictment and the dramatic, brief statement of Jack Smith.
Yeah, I mean, we're sort of back to, I think, where we started with this, which is, I mean, we don't know if this is going to be the only federal indictment of Donald Trump. I mean, it's been noted that this is part of what Jack Smith was investigating. He apparently was presenting evidence to grand juries both in Florida, where this indictment has been brought, but also in Washington, D.C., where they appear to be looking at the January 6th related stuff and the other stuff about trying to stay in office after he was voted out. And so, you know, there may yet be another federal indictment on other charges, but to the extent that we've got this one to work with now, it's very straightforward, and there's not a lot of sort of loose ends in terms of stuff that we still need to find out more about in terms of thinking about how this is going to come up in court. I will say one of the things I have been thinking about is what's going to happen next year, which we believe is going to be that arraignment at 3 p.m. on Tuesday in district court in Miami. And it's been reported today that the judge who's going to oversee that arraignment and set the initial sort of things in motion regarding this case, leading ultimately to this trial, will be Judge Aileen Cannon, who is a Trump appointee. There's a gazillion of those. That was one of the great conservative successes of his presidency. But she's a judge who has been involved in this case in the past. And when she is the judge who, I don't mean to say this in a way that's meant, I don't mean this in a personal way, but in sort of judge terms, she kind of embarrassed herself with rulings that were so favorable to Trump. They were shocking to people in the legal world, and then they were not just overruled by a very conservative appeals court that reviewed the decision, but she was actually criticized in pretty sharp terms by that appeals court, again, by other Trump appointees, by other conservative judges saying, wow, what you ruled here was nutball. And so she's been involved in this case before in a way that was strange and very pro-Trump, to the point where I do think it affected her reputation overall as a judge. It'll be very interesting to see what she's going to do on Tuesday, the way the wheels are sort of set in motion to start this case, to set timing and other important substantive things about how this case is going to be litigated. It's going to be in her hands on Tuesday, and she's an unusual character in this drama.
Yeah, and you know, Rachel Kater, I think, made a really good point that I would love to just remake it in and sort of reemphasize that, you know, one of the things that Jack Smith said in his very brief presentation today was very specifically a grand jury indicted Donald Trump. And this was a grand jury in the Southern District of Florida, so they were already in place in Florida, in MAGA-land, right? But they heard this evidence that we've now been able to read and do some dramatic readings of, and they indicted him. So already they've cleared sort of the lowest bar of, we can get this past a Florida grand jury. And Kate makes a point that I think is important. If, in fact, a jury in Miami, Trump country, and a judge who I think we can presume is going to rule in Trump's favor a lot. We don't know if she always will rule in Trump's favor. We don't know if the reputational damage from the previous experience with the special master will change her behavior. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But let's just presume she rules a lot in Trump's favor and in his favor. And then a jury in Trump country still convicts him. In a way, it does immunize the process from what we already know Trump's allies on the Hill are going to do, what his allies who are running for president are going to do, what his sycophants in the Republican Party are going to do. It would be really hard to say that Trump was railroaded by a pro-Trump MAGA judge, a Miami jury in Trump country, and by a process in which it's his own staff and his own lawyers who are providing all of the evidence. It kind of helps, right? I mean,
so
in a weird way.
I totally agree with you, but here's what I think is a big open question. If she's the judge on the case, she can basically pocket veto this for quite some time, because everything you said is totally right. But if she is the judge, she can say, this is going to take a while. There are pending motions, and the trial. I'm not even going to let's start thinking about the trial date for another year.
Right.
Let's do. And so basically, we're talking post-election.
Yeah.
And so that's the damage.
Stall it till he could theoretically win and pardon himself.
Right, and it wouldn't even be that hard to put it off. In other words, cases take a while. So she would have a lot of discretion. I think that one of the things, to sort of Rachel's point about sort of what to expect and what could happen, is the government going to do something to say, she needs to recuse herself?
Yeah.
It is very hard to do that, but it's worth noting, to Rachel's point, that this judge's rulings were so out of bounds that I remember at the time, there are judges you disagree with, but I remember there was a reason everybody I knew, including myself, just thought this was beyond the pale. This just didn't follow the law or the facts. That's why if you remember, the special master got involved, and Judge Deary, it was like night and day, because you suddenly had a district judge who was grounded in reality and the law, doing things that she had to say, stop doing that. Well, the 11th Circuit reversed Judge Cannon not once, twice. And these were conservative panels. So the issue to me is the government going to just say we're going to accept her as a judge and then battle over and over again, including on the trial date? Because they're going to ask for a speedy trial, and she says, I'm not doing it.
Go ahead, Rachel. Let me just ask one quick question, and this is just a technical thing, and I apologize if this is an unknown, as I'm so moved with it, but Judge Cannon is one of a whole bunch of judges on that district, Andrew. Would she have been assigned responsibility for this arraignment on Tuesday because she had otherwise been involved in those earlier stages of this case when it came to those things that she ruled on and whether the Justice Department could reveal that matter and executive privilege claims and everything? Would she have gotten this case because of her earlier involvement in it, or was it a random assignment to her?
So we don't know how that happened. I think that the sort of the intel that I'm hearing is that the universe of judges in the location of sort of the nucleus of facts, which is Mar-a-Lago, is so small that it may have been random, but the denominator was, a denominator of 2 or 3, so that it wasn't, the sort of like, did she get it out of like 24 and it just so happened it went to the same judge and the same magistrate? That obviously didn't happen. So it may be random within that nucleus, but I think that's something the government's going to drill down on to make sure that the process by which she was selected was fair and and cricket. But then they could ask her to recuse, they could ask the chief judge at the district court level, then they could go to the 11th Circuit. But that's one avenue, and the other is just to keep battling it and see if you can create a record that she's being so unfair that you then ask her to recuse.
Can I ask you a question? You kind of got to it, is can the government object? Can they say that she's already shown that she's so biased that she can't take this case? But could they also make a national security case? I mean, she is based closer to Palm Beach. Miami, just because of just the way it's sort of situated, has more kind of federal marshal structure, more security structure. It's actually easier to do a case where you think there could be some national security or security issue in Miami. Could they, on that basis, or on the basis of the notion that she probably cannot be fair or has shown that she can't be objective, could they get her pushed off the case?
I would say that if you have a chief judge who is inclined to rule for the government, that would be a lovely fig leaf to use, so that you don't actually have to make a ruling that a colleague that has the appearance of impropriety, because you're looking for some reason. This does happen rarely, but it does happen, and usually when courts do it, they sort of bend over backwards to do it in the most benign way. So I think that is one potential strategy. But I can assure you that is the conversation that's going on right now about, first, to Rachel's point, finding out exactly how this selection was made. And then trying to figure out legally what are their options.
Let me bring our colleague Alex Weiner into this. So since you got off the air last night, and since you joined...
What's happened?
I was eating a turkey sandwich. I swept the crumbs off, sat down.
We probably need to bring him to an IV, because he hadn't really left. But the indictment, Jack Smith speaks. What are your thoughts?
Many. I don't know if you guys, apologies if you've already addressed this, but I was very moved by this in a way. The moment that Smith sort of pauses his remarks and says, I think it's really important to presume innocence, and reminds everybody that Donald Trump is innocent until proven guilty. And for him to go out of his way in this moment, right, where he is amassed, I mean, what looks to me, a layman, not someone who went to law school, like an open and shut case, that it is a reminder that as complicated as this will be for our government, our Department of Justice, our democracy, someone with a lot of integrity is up at the podium running this show. So that I thought was really important. Beyond that, in this, what reads like a whodunit, the fact that classified information about some of the most sensitive programs and sources in our country and overseas was basically stored at like a CVS or Grand Central Station. I mean, no security, boxes in the ballroom, boxes next to the toilet. It's comic, right? It's unthinkably ridiculous. But can you imagine if you were a secret undercover agent working to help the CIA abroad, and this is how we are treating the work that you have done? Basically, this is how we take care of your life and your service for the United States of America. It is damning. It is chilling, and I cannot imagine what it's like to be overseas in Afghanistan, in Iran, in any of these places where people live in peril to help us, ensure a free and fair world and keep our democracy upright. To see the former president of the United States treat these classified secrets with such impunity and such arrogance and such unthinkable cavalier behavior and I don't think we should lose sight of that. Those are people's lives that are scattered about.
Well, I mean, Alex, to your point, I saw a through line from his first day as president when he goes to the CIA and stands before the wall of people who've given their life to collect that kind of information, and starts making his asinine comments about the size of his crowd. I mean, he never respected them. He never gained respect for them.
And to your point there, I think that like the central point here that this all emanates from, and you guys were saying it before about sort of through line of the presidency, but in the indictment is that he thinks they're his. Full stop. Yeah. They don't belong to him, they belong to him. And in fact, the sort of irony here is, and I had Tim Parlatore on as well, and we've talked to other Trump lawyers who say, well, the Presidential Records Act wasn't intended as a criminal statute. It's not quite true, actually, because the origin of the Presidential Records Act is an emergency piece of legislation that is passed by Congress very quickly because Richard Nixon is about to destroy the evidence of his own criminality, having left the White House in disgrace. There is a emergency passage of this law to stop him from doing that subsequently will become challenged in the Supreme Court, ruled 7-2 constitutional, and then become the actual Presidential Records Act signed by Jimmy Carter, creating the process for everyone forward. But in the moment it's passed, it's precisely because Richard Nixon is incapable of making a distinction between the possessions of the United States, the people, the citizens, and the office of the presidency, and his own thirst for power. Here we are now, 40 years later, in the exact same situation in which the law passed to prevent precisely this, which is the arrogation of the people's business and property to the man who served in the presidency is being transgressed, yet again, in a far more flagrant fashion.
Let me do two things. Let me bring Rachel back in, and let me introduce familiar face to all our viewers joining us on this momentous day, former acting U.S. Solicitor General Neil Katyal. Neil, we'll get your first reaction, and then I want to bring Rachel back in.
So I think Alex, as usual, hits it exactly on the head. The issue is not like some documents that were stolen. It's the kind of documents that Trump stole and mishandled and then lied about. And I was surprised, I have to say, when I read this 49-page indictment, because it is the opposite of what prosecutors are usually required to file, which is bare bones. I mean, this is truly a speaking indictment, and the indictment speaks in loud and clear terms that the prosecutors have damning evidence against Trump, and a lot of it at that. And to me, Nicole, the thing that stood out the most is that the indictment is told through Trump's own words. It's his own damaging statement after damaging statement before, during, and after the subpoenas for these documents were issued. And in many ways, I guess Trump's big mouth is what...
All right, so here we go in Kyalami. Kind of didn't say anything yet in this stream, but we did qualifying. We didn't do it well, but who cares?
And so on. But this indictment is so thorough, so profoundly bad for Donald Trump. I'm not really sure how he can defend himself. I don't see anything viable that comes to mind.
And we've seen the attempts at defenses, they all seem to melt away when you read to all of your, the point you're all making, the deadly serious nature of what he endangered. Rachel?
Yeah, on the point of what he endangered, that's exactly what I've been thinking about through this whole discussion, which is, we don't have an explicit explanation in the text of the indictment about what harm was done to U.S. national security by his alleged, handling of these documents and disclosure of these documents to people who didn't have the clearance to see them. But we also, if you kind of step back from it, you can imagine the harm that is done just by our allies around the world now knowing that this incredibly secret information that they have shared with us or that they have co-developed with us, stuff that is only clear to be seen by the Five Eyes countries that are involved in that intelligence pact. Our allies around the world know that in the United States, their very sensitive documents and information and secrets have not been protected. They have been kept in a back room with an inexplicable toilet chandelier at a private club in Florida. They've been tucked on a stage in a ballroom. I mean, we're talking about more than 300 documents, classified, almost all of which involve important equities from other countries, including countries in which we have close working intelligence relationships that depend on them trusting us to be able to handle our stuff. And we can't handle our stuff. I mean, the thing that we all read on page 15 and 16 of the indictment, where we've got this apparent recording of Trump talking about a document, a recorded meeting where he's showing classified information to a writer and to a staffer and all these people who are not allowed to see it. He says, look, all sorts of stuff, pages long, it's highly confidential, secret, this is secret information, look at this. I mean, it's like a child coming in from playing outside being like, look, Mommy, plutonium. It's not out of the box, and it says radioactive on it, but we've all been playing with it. Look. Just the horror that this stuff is out there. The harm is done. Our national security reputation, our ability to continue to work with our allies who need us to be trustworthy, is harmed by what Donald Trump has allegedly done.
Frank, we joined us, and Frank, this has been a line in all of your analysis of all of the events ever since this became public, ever since the court approved search of Mar-a-Lago. And I want to read how that section starts, because we also have Trump's motive. He's trying to smear, who in his mind is a political adversary, trying to smear the then and current chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Chairman Mark Milley. And it starts like this. Well, with the senior military official, let me see that. I'll show you an example. He said, I wanted to attack country A. Isn't it amazing? I have a big pile of papers. This thing just came up. Look, this was him. They presented me this. This is off the record, but they presented me this. This was him. This was the Department of Defense and him. Donald Trump was always on a revenge tour against someone. And to Rachel's point, we don't really know the blast radius of the damage that this reckless handling and willful retention caused, do we?
We don't yet. You have described a possible glimpse into at least partial motivation. We know from his track record that
I can't say that.
everything is a transaction. And so it's possible that at least for some of the documents he chose, even after going through them, perhaps, I'll keep this, I won't keep this.
All my slow people are quitting, man.
We also have multiple people describing a president at the time who would take boxes of documents and sit with them on Air Force One and show people, look, I'm working, I'm reading, may not have any clues to what's in that stack of paper. So I think it's a mixed situation here in terms of motivation. And let's be certain of one thing, regardless of his motivation, what strikes me from this indictment is the level of secrecy attached to these documents and the breadth of the agencies from which they come. When I see a listing of the agencies who had a piece of this, unfortunately for them, had their documents in the open at Mar-a-Lago, and they include the National Security Agency, the National Geospatial Agency, the Central Intelligence Agency. We are talking about agencies that literally, even within the intelligence community, we often refer to by code.
Keep your right hands off the sausage, people.
So we don't have to say the name of the agency. That's how secretive it is in terms of their mission. And yet they're in the shower and on the stage, and I can't help but think, knowing the world of intelligence and counterintelligence, how large a target Mar-a-Lago has been for years, and how undoubtedly foreign intelligence services have made their way there. We've gotten only peaks of that in public reporting about foreign nationals who got in somehow and got close to the president. But I'm here to tell you that there was far more going on in the background. And we don't know the extent to which those foreign powers may have actually gotten their eyes or hands on some of those documents.
I mean, can you imagine the scene in the spy movie when the person who is rolled up to some wedding at Mar-a-Lago in disguise, like, excuses himself to go to a bathroom to find like 1 million boxes with sensitive documents, including, I mean, it's like, or the shower. Really?
The shower, and they detail that on page 4. First of all, the hundreds of members of Mar-a-Lago, staffed by more than 150 people between January 2021 and August 2022, it hosted more than 150 social events. This was like Grand Central Station.
So they're trying to get ahead of this whole idea that, oh, these were kept in unlocked storage. You know, like, what's the big deal? This was basically intact. So why are you complaining? They know, okay, maybe it wasn't exactly right. Maybe it should have been escaped, but no, this was actually a locked room.
And the secret was there as like irrefutable evidence.
Exactly. This is like totally getting ahead of that. They also got ahead of it by saying, you know what, the Secret Service was not told anything about this, and they had no idea. Meaning, like, don't sit there and use the Secret Service as an out. And just to the big question to Frank is, the last time I was sort of this surprised that the intelligence community went along with something like this was the two Russia indictments where, without getting into the details, I mean, the intelligence community has to sign off on this. The idea that the intelligence community signed off on the 21 top secret documents.
I'll be saying that tonight when I get a second 90-minute race.
The meeting with everyone had to pony up. When you have the NSA, CIA, everyone saying, we understand this is important because to Rachel's point.
Oh, it starts at 9:30.
And the prospect of having Donald Trump back in the White House it does not help. So when you were trying
it's
the idea that
5:30.
how do we know this isn't going to happen again? And that, I can tell you, is so damaging to national security. And that is our national security. It's not about getting information just to protect the rest of the world. I mean, the way that we are safer is by getting that information.
I want to bring Neil in. I know we're going to lose you in a minute, Neil. How do you think these serious national security issues, and it's clear from listening to Frank talk and others, that we may never really understand the scale of the damage that's been done. Reviewing that may not be in the national interest. But how do you think
Get your drive.
all that plays into this revolving door of defense attorneys on the Trump side?
Well, the Trump attorneys, at least before they left the team, were floating this defense method. They were basically saying, no harm, no foul, the documents remained in a locked area, no threat or harm to national security. And I think there are two fundamental problems with that argument. I expect that
I was on Push to Talk Sunday. I actively chose to hit my button.
There's an obvious concrete harm now. If you're an ally, if you're Britain, if you're Canada, if you're Australia, you're really going to share that really sensitive intel with us when you know it could be mishandled in this way without any sort of repercussion, without any consequence? That's why a prosecution like this is so important.
I allowed myself to get pissed off.
Our own spies in the field, our covert agents, the folks who work for other governments, that work for our intelligence services, do they want to take a life-threatening risk when they know that their information that they generate could be so cavalierly handled? So that's why I think, and I've always said since the night of the Mar-a-Lago raid many months ago, this is going to culminate in Trump being prosecuted, because you have to do this. There's no alternative. The other thing is that the whole regime around classified information and the Espionage Act is prophylactic. It's not like you have to prove a harm to national security if you're the prosecutor. The whole idea is just by mishandling the information, there's a risk something bad can happen, and you prosecute that. In that sense, it's kind of like drunk driving. The person who has 20 drinks at the bar and drives home and doesn't get in an accident, I guess could say, hey, no harm, no foul. But the whole law is written to say, no, you're engaged in a very serious risk, and those people we put in jail for, often long periods of time. This is a far, far more serious thing. And for Jack Smith's indictment today really recognize it as such. So
A lot of us Porsches in the back.
That's what I say. Read the indictment. It's really hard to come up with any other explanation besides this is a wanton criminal and deserves to be brought to justice.
Inevitably what's going to happen on the right is that the comparisons are going to be made to other people who have had access to or contact with classified materials and have not been indicted. Now, I will note that they were all investigated. There is no one who has had contact with classified material, whether it's Hillary Clinton or Vice President Mike Pence or even the sitting president now who was former Vice President. The Justice Department has investigated all of them. So check there. Donald Trump is being treated like everyone else in that sense. But I go back even to 2005 to Samuel Sandy Berger, who was a national security official in the Clinton administration, who wound up pleading guilty to avoid jail time, pay a fine, he didn't go to jail. But he had access to a small amount of classified material that he took out of the National Archives, and he was all the way prosecuted and wound up having to plead it out. So, the scale of that, and the fact that he had destroyed some of the documents, sort of weighed in on, he didn't just give them back. Some of those documents were destroyed. To me, that fact pattern is very similar, but the scale with Trump is so much different. The fact that he has this hide and seek, going through here gets to 44. Trump goes through this hide and seek where he has his employees saying, employee 2, Trump is tracking the boxes. He's tracking the boxes. Water bottle today, whether he wants to go through some today or tomorrow. Trump employee 2, thank you. Then that's January 13th. 2 days later, Trump employee 2, hey, got anything new on the boxes? Can we get new box covers to get them? Sure, I'll get that. Then they keep going. Days later, gonna get you some information as soon as we can on boxes. He's really, it seems like there's a hide and seek to try to hide the boxes to make sure that no one can get at the boxes. There is no other official who I've ever heard of that had, Hillary Clinton, you could say what you want, she wasn't like doing a hide and seek, you can't find this material. They could have, if she forwarded any of those emails to a foreign country or something, they could have found that. This is the only person I've ever seen do that. Does that explanation in your mind help to kind of frame this when the right brings up Hillary Clinton, brings up Joe Biden, and brings up Mike Pence?
Yes, boy, I agree with you totally. So 3 points. One, absolutely, we have the long track record of prosecuting people for even small amounts of mishandling classified information and putting people in jail for that. So that's established precedents that the Justice Department has. Second, as you say, the scale of this law breaking was so much worse. I was really surprised in this indictment to learn that it was hundreds of classified documents, and as Andrew was saying, it's not just any old classified document. Some of the most sensitive classified documents, SCI, code word, Five Eyes information, and the like. So this is really serious stuff. And number three, the distinction with, people like the Penn certified and thing, beyond just the scale of it, is the obstruction afterwards. So it's one thing if you make a mistake, it's another thing if you don't own up to it, if you lie about it, if you engage in dress rehearsals for the boxes to be moved, to tell your attorneys that the information was all provided when it wasn't, and you're caught red-handed with these documents because the FBI has raided your social club. I mean, all of it stinks to high heaven, and that's why I think Jack Smith had to make the choice he did. He did it in a profoundly detailed way today. And I think if you're Donald Trump, you have to be, the guy seems, to never be, outwardly project he's never afraid of anything. I suspect he's got to be terrified. This is as serious as the law gets.
Andrew, after being on live television for about 40 hours, we are going to let you go. I heard that you were considering a big drill for the week.
Adam just makes the Microsoft voice curse on my stream.
Ask you something about the man. I mean, Mueller was lionized, and I think people that knew him and had worked with him thought it was justified. But I think across the spectrum, we're disappointed by the outcome. An inability to clearly articulate crimes in Volume 2. A whole lot of pardons that wiped out the vital work that you were involved in Volume 1, and Bill Barr completely smearing the facts and the truth. What, if any, is sort of in the DOJ DNA to not let someone like Trump, who's eating his way out of brazen crimes?
So it's really important to think about the difference in terms of situations. One, it is useful to think of the press conference today as really sort of in the Robert Mueller style. I mean, this was a Jack Smith who is not enamored of speaking in public. It was clear he was very good. It was like, his face like, I'm going to say what I want to say. And that's it. So it was, it was terse to the point, and that's a very Mueller-esque. The difference is he gets to charge. This is somebody who's no longer the president. Two, he doesn't have to worry about an attorney general undermining him. Three, he doesn't have to worry yet about the potential for pardons to deter cooperation, because that's just such an eventuality. So he has a lot going for him.
Well, hold your brakes, you dumbass.
He was really thorough. He was a really good team in terms of he had a lot of experience in this particular area. And it's also worth noting that we're talking about an amazing indictment now. There is more to come. So this is one set of charges, and as damning as this indictment is, it is worth remembering what he's still being investigated for in 2 jurisdictions is overthrowing the will of the people. I mean, as much as we're talking about, and I totally agree with you about the importance of this, and I was in national security, so I was listening to you thinking, this is great that you're making that point. That what he's under investigation for, if anything, is even worse, and it goes to the very heart of our democracy.
It's second in the history of the country, second only to the traitor to the Confederacy.
I can't believe that one Ferrari didn't hold his brakes.
The only thing that tops it.
You saw that, didn't you, Chris?
The only thing is existential. And to your point there, this is something that, reading this and thinking about this, I have long strongly felt that accountability, criminal accountability in a court of law for that day and what led up to it and what happened on that day is absolutely crucial for him specifically, not just all the other people who are involved in it. I don't know. These are independent investigations. One doesn't bear on the other in terms of the facts, and doesn't bear on the other in terms of the law. They're parallel, essentially. Smith's willingness to go about this in the way he has here makes me more bullish on the other one. Yeah, just because it just seems like, are there charges? Is it chargeable criminal conduct to Donald Trump in the rug that January 6th? Like, yes. Is it a hard case? Yeah, maybe. Is it worth it? Absolutely. Right. All of those just seem so clear to me, and the fact that they've gone about this with the diligence and sort of tenacity they have does make me feel more inclined to think that other should drop. Whether it does or not, this is what it is. But
And I will add, even though it is considered to be the least important case, I think what we're seeing now in terms of accountability is New York gets to Donald Trump's greed and finality. The E.G. Carroll case gets to his hatred of women and his violence. This gets to his lack of basic patriotism and his weirdness and oddness. But it is the January 6th piece that gets to his utter hatred of us as a country. He cannot possibly love his country or love the military he was commander-in-chief of if he gets a Navy man to go be a gopher to commit crime for him and then says, you're a good man, I'm going to pay for your lawyer, and essentially let him go down like the January 6th people. Every piece of this that's happening to Trump right now gets to different parts of his villainy, and I'm actually glad all of it is coming out. There's no piece of it that isn't important.
We're just making a quick break. Cocktail endorsement for all of our shows, for all of us who do this. We can't do it without you. Thank you so much for everything you've done for us. I have to say, too, while I have the floor, on Monday, on my broadcast, you predicted that Jack Smith would charge Donald Trump this week, and you were right. We pushed you, and we pressed you, and you held by that, and you were right.
Off-track betting, we should listen. Give us a lot of numbers.
They were getting plus 230.
We stay friends, maybe I'll start. All right, so reaction from the right and potential calls for violence from Trump supporters. Our breaking news coverage continues. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
I have a surprise for you.
What? Okay, we can say
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Free cancellation, most days. Booking.com, booking down.
Want to pay only $40 per month to watch MSNBC and more with Slinger's no hidden fees and no contracts. Keep MSNBC and save over $800 a year, all for just $40 per month. Try us today at sling.com/MSNBC.
What do you guys think came first, the chicken or the baby back rib? Baby back ribs.
Chicken tenders all the way.
Baby back ribs.
Chicken tenders.
Baby back ribs. Baby back ribs. Baby back
This is Sadie. She's on Verizon, and she has the new My Plan, where she gets exactly what she wants and only pays for what she needs. She picks only the perks she wants and saves on every one. All with an incredible new iPhone. Act now and get iPhone 14 Pro on us when you switch. It's your Verizon.
Postmenopausal women with HR-positive, HER2-negative metastatic breast cancer are living longer with Kisqali. So long live family time, long live dreams, and long live you. Kisqali is a pill proven to help women live longer when taken with an aromatase inhibitor. And Kisqali helps preserve quality of life. So you're not just living, you're living well. Kisqali can cause non-carbon or an abnormal heartbeat, which can lead to death. It can cause serious skin reactions, liver problems, and low white blood cell counts that may result in severe infections. Avoid grapefruit during treatment. Tell your doctor right away if you have new or worsening symptoms, including breathing problems, cough, chest pain, a change in your heartbeat, dizziness, yellowing of the skin or eyes, dark urine, tiredness, loss of appetite, abdomen pain, bleeding, bruising, fever, chills, or other symptoms of an infection, a severe or worsening rash, or plans to become pregnant or breastfeeding. Long live hugs and kisses. Ask about Kisqali, and long live life.
Why is Aaron happy? Well, just days ago, no deal flew out.
That sounds illegal.
That's because Carvana had tens of thousands of cars under $20,000. And with the new co-signer offers, Aaron's folks were able to help him out with a new ride. No way. Yes, sir. With the Most cars under $20,000 and our new co-signer option will drive you happy. That's Carvana.
I love shopping in Real Real. It's Gucci, Prada, Mall's Yard, Burberry, it's luxury rent up to 90% off retail. It's 10,000 new arrivals every single day, and they've all been authenticated. It's keeping it sustainable. It's finding something one of a kind. It's whatever you want it to be.
Thousands of new arrivals daily, up to 90% off retail.
Real Real, where luxury is yours to define. Shop now and get 20% off at realreal.com.
Yeah, I was gonna say, kind of like my girlfriend, Cookie.
When you need answers first thing in the morning, you need your morning drive weekdays at 6 only on MSNBC. Angry and Mitchell reports weekdays at noon on MSNBC.
We're back on this historic day of news. My colleague Rachel Maddow has been monitoring some of the, for lack of a better word, vitriol coming out from the right. What are you seeing?
Well, Nicole, one of the things that we're watching today is not only what this means personally for Donald Trump and for his political future and all the rest of it, but what we're watching is to see what this means for the country. And Donald Trump has been pretty explicit in warning that if the legal system is used to hold him to account, that he will call on his supporters to respond through means of protest or through means of fighting or other terms like that. Well, we've certainly seen already in pro-Trump message boards and things online, we've seen people definitely calling for violence. We saw some of that after his first indictment as well. But we've also seen a couple of things from Republican members of Congress. What's on the screen right here is from Republican Congressman Clay Higgins of Louisiana. President Trump said, this is from last night, President Trump said he has been summoned to appear at the federal courthouse in Miami on Tuesday. This is a perimeter probe from the oppressors. Hold. Our POTUS has this. Our POTUS is a thing that Trump people use, which means real president of the United States, implying that he actually was reelected even though he was not. This is a perimeter probe from the oppressors. Hold. Our POTUS has this. Buckle up. 1/50K, which I think is a reference to the scale on military maps. Know your bridges, which presumably means like be ready when it comes to knowing about critical infrastructure. Rock steady calm, that is all. So this is a perimeter probe from the oppressors, and then this reference in military jargon to what people should be doing in response to it, with the specific reference to which courthouse Trump is going to be in on Tuesday and at what time. That was from Clay Higgins last night. I think you saw some sort of alarmed response to that. What exactly is Congressman Higgins doing here? But then this afternoon it got a little bit worse. Republican Congressman Andy Biggs of Arizona posted this afternoon. Quote, we have now reached a war phase, eye for an eye. So again, we are seeing Trump supporters and Trump, pro-Trump media personalities on the right effectively calling for violence, at least calling for some sort of physical resistance to this act by the Justice Department. But to have members of Congress using language like this, I'm glad it is not more than two of them thus far, but we are seeing at least a couple of them get pretty far out on a limb to the point where that limb starts breaking in terms of whether or not we are a country that's going to accept that everybody's bound by the rule of law and have to let the process play out.
I mean, Rachel, we had one investigation, the January 6th Select Committee probe, that was able to track the impact of the December 19th tweet, quote, really wild, to the acts for which two groups, militia members, were found guilty of seditious conspiracy. We have a current warning by DHS and the FBI governing our whole country right now, saying that around political events and political actors, basically every group except Republican men are a potential target for violence. And we have, in the era of Trump, acts of political violence that have been carried out against the speaker's husband, against election workers in New Mexico. I mean, it's not a will it happen, it's a has it happened and will happen again.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see.
We also have Florida still. We have Florida. We have the fact that that is Enrique Tarrio's base. It has become a Proud Boys hotbed, and it has become, those who watch national security are concerned about Florida becoming a magnet for extremists and extremism. It is the planning base of, MAGA right now. It is the headquarters, and it's concerning that a member of Congress, a member of the body.
Yeah, I was the only one who had to worry about him.
Would actually do a stand back and stand by type tweet in reference to Donald Trump. And if that was last night, that's before anybody got a chance to read the indictment. It is actually frightening. And I think, the security around that Miami courthouse, it better be real tight, because this isn't having to fly people into D.C. Miami already has the problem. Miami already has it, and let's be reminded that Florida is now a no permit carry state. It is now a state where the governor is encouraging it to become more like Texas in terms of, wielding firearms. This stuff is easy to sleep, because Florida ain't the Florida that I.
Can your car make it 110 on a tank? A 1 minute 10 or an hour 10?
It's a little scary to have members of Congress stoking this.
And I think the thing to watch too, Joy, is what Trump himself calls for from his supporters, because I think one of the underappreciated things about his earlier indictment a couple of months ago in New York is that I do think it was somewhat humiliating for Trump that he called for nationwide protests like the country has never seen in response to that indictment. And it was like, a handful of people on a bridge going to Mar-a-Lago. It was a handful of people on a bridge going to Mar-a-Lago. It was whoever just turned off the screen. But it was, in New York, on the day of his indictment or his arraignment in New York, there was like a busload of people in New York, but he really wanted the whole country shut down by mass pro-Trump civil disobedience. And he didn't get it, and it was a humiliation. And he's very attuned in his processes. And so it may be that he approaches this differently in terms of asking for something that he might not get. But you're absolutely right, though. The geography here matters, and asking for it in Manhattan might be a totally different kettle of fish than asking for it in Florida.
Alex, I was going to say, I think it's really meaningful that it's members of Congress that are saying this, that are using this military lingo. As someone who's spoken to former militia members in advance of January 6th, a lot of these guys that were responsible for January 6th are ex-military, current military, they're in law enforcement, they understand what that means. And we're not talking about an ousted former president of Congress. We're talking about people who are currently in Congress, who, by the way, the president has tasked with getting him off the hook, and who have so far been following in line. I mean, if you see what the Oversight Committee has been doing in recent weeks, if you look at what the Judiciary Committee has been doing in recent weeks, they're listening to Trump, and they have power. And that is a real distinction, right? I mean, we know all that Congress has tried to mess around with Alvin Bragg, but we know Jim Jordan, Comer, the rest of them, they are very fired up about this. And now you have these tweets that are really in no uncertain terms calling for military footing or action. But is Frank Puglisi still with us?
I am.
Frank, what do you say?
There's a concern developing. I'm talking to my law enforcement contacts in South Florida. I served there for 4 years of my career in an executive management position at FBI Miami. And I think you're right about the characterization of the entire region. It's a hodgepodge of every possible belief, conspiracy theory. I'm told that even today on English language radio and Spanish language radio, there's a continuing stream of conspiracy theories, anti-federal government rhetoric, and this is something that happens every day. So the security challenge really is significant. And the problem is this is very much split up, the security and threat and risk planning. You've got Secret Service with their protected. You've got the U.S. Marshals with the courthouse and the personnel in that courthouse. You've got the City of Miami Police Department, which is 3 blocks from the federal courthouse, a relatively small police department. Then you've got Miami-Dade County Police, which undoubtedly are going to come in and layer over that and establish outer perimeters, the state authorities as well. But this is all hands on deck. And you and I have all talked recently about that's very nice. You can throw resources at this, but the tools in the toolkit, the domestic terrorism response mechanisms simply aren't there. And so in order to repeat something like January 6th, which by all accounts isn't something that's going to happen because of the chilling effect of the 1,000 arrests, but that lone operator, a small group who are planning something, are going to key off of something Trump does or posts or something some senator or congressmember says or does, and that's the challenge.
You know, I want to give you another fact I think you should hear with us, and I'm sorry we haven't gotten in yet. But you think about Donald Trump's explicit nature doing just what Rachel described, calling to arms, stand back and stand by on the 19th, come to D.C., will be wild. And you look at the copycat incitement in Congress, and to Frank's point, we have precious few tools to deal with that. What are your thoughts?
Well, first let me say, this is a level of fear and possibility of violence that was going to build whether or not there was this indictment in the sense, and we just did a report called Cause for Concern, because every single election cycle we've watched the building of violent extremists, white supremacists, neo-Nazis increasing their threats and their incitement because we're about to behave in a democracy and something central to that democracy, show up to vote. What Donald Trump is doing is actually taking advantage of what he has helped to stoke, what he is allowed to come into the light of day and have permission. And what we've seen is an increase in the number of people joining Proud Boy chapters since January 6th. This has happened since January 6th. So between Congress's inability to convict him in doing impeachment for this very violence that he helped to incite, has simply reinforced, re-empowered, and is continuous with the growth of hate and bias and organized. Because I agree with Frank about individuals, but it's also organized that is growing and developing in this country. And it is because political figures such as these have, it's not only just given it permission, pretend that it doesn't exist, in some instances actually join it. And I have to make a point that the responsible figures, to the extent they remain in the Republican Party, the incentive structure is all wrong here. With everyone who's running for president, the incentive structure is to defend Trump. And even Mike Pence, who was the intended victim on January 6th, his statement was very mixed today. He said it's important to carefully handle classified documents. I, apologized for and returned the documents that were found in my possession. But he then got on board with the idea that this is the weaponization of government. He got on that train.
He came out from the top of the bottom at the end of the day if he became the next president.
Exactly. And then, of course, you have Ron DeSantis, or DeSantis, however you pronounce it, who is essentially living up the MAGA base, thinking he can steal them from Donald Trump. And so he's doing everything, vowing that he will, it's weaponization of government, using all the rhetoric that's not that far from from those posts by that member of Congress. His rhetoric is getting real close. And you only have like Mitt Romney, who has no moral authority in the Republican Party left. And Asa Hutchinson, who's a former federal prosecutor, and obviously the former governor of New Jersey, who's a former federal prosecutor, they're the only two talking sense. And so if you don't have, Chris Christie, who I think is the only person who can give the bully voice to tell people, knock it off, like at least he has that sort of ability, it's concerning to me that people in the Republican Party, there's no one saying, let me be the grown-up here and shut this down.
Well, I think Eddie brought in their coverage as well. Eddie, I think one of the asymmetrical aspects to Trumpism is that the anti-Biggs call to arms makes it all the way around the world and certainly around the MAGA universe a dozen times before a single voice with very little credibility in that world makes it through to any of them.
Right. I think there's this sense of partisanship. Trump's runs commitment to the security of the nation. Politics, is paramount. Instead of patriotism, it's always. Look, we've always faced this tragic choice, Nicole. And the tragic choice has been, will we uphold the rule of law? And of course, face the prospects of a cold civil war turning high. Will we not uphold the rule of law and face the prospects of losing our democracy? We're here. We're there.
Thank
people have to choose sides. It's clear. And I think we have to understand that kind of choice for what it is. We're at that moment now, we're at an inflection point, and the nation must choose who we're going to be.
I just wanted to say one thing about Rachel's point before about the humiliation of being like, rise up everyone, and then it's like a few people thrown, you know. So I've seen this like on the main reading of college, they you know, and Rachel has pointed this out before with other figures who seem to be colossuses at a moment. Father Coughlin or, you know, McCarthy, of course. When it goes. And there is a little bit of this sense that from the time he came down the escalator of like this sort of gravity-defying trip of Trump's political capital. But it's just not foreordained that it doesn't fall back to earth at some point. I'm not saying it's going to happen because it might not, but it's also not the case that like he can necessarily marshal those in the streets. It's not the case that like a series of indictments doesn't at some point, like a little needle in a massive balloon, like start to actually leak. I don't know if that's the case. But I'm just also not convinced yet. It's a great point that we see two members of Congress saying this. Like, his power and his control over a certain portion of the base is obviously rock solid. But his broader political power and influence to me, I think there's a lot of different ways it could go at this moment.
Hey, you know, I come back to the point about a time of choosing, because it seems that in as much as I don't think politics enter into anything Jack Smith does or says ever, there is a desire that those of us interested in helping to preserve and protect our democracy read the indictment. He said at the beginning of his remarks, read it. Read it. I didn't make this up. The investigation brings to bear Donald Trump's own words, Donald Trump's lead criminal defense attorneys, Donald Trump's own aide, Donald Trump's own braggadocio to someone interviewing him about something he couldn't show him because it was secret. I mean, there really is a choice being made, to your point, about how we move forward at this moment.
Absolutely. And you know, it's always the point you presume or assume that facts can overrun passions. That some people will read this and still see the weaponization, as Joy said, the weaponization of the federal government. And whether you're talking from Hughes to McCarthy, whether you're talking from the folks who are left with terrorists or Steve Scalise, there's always this sense that the federal government is overly threatening our liberty, and that can activate folk in a whole different another way, even though the facts are what they are. So we have to make a choice, and we have to fight for what the country that we need, the country that we want. But we're here. We're at this inflection point, and all of this, of course, is right in front of us.
You know, we've gone 3 hours without...
Seems all the break points here have a line on the road.
But Bill Barr, the most dangerous place to be for the last 7 months has been between Bill Barr and a camera. When he's asked how much legal duty Donald Trump is in the Mar-a-Lago investigation case. And I wonder if it wasn't 3 years of watching Donald Trump deal with classified documents, but every time one of these yahoos on the right talks about going to war over this case, I'm going to play Bill Barr. You know, it's so ironic because we're going to play Bill Barr, even though one of the reasons we're in this situation is because of Bill Barr, right? So he helped get us here by being the bad man and really protecting Trump, doctoring a memo to undermine and try to take some of the sting out of what Robert Mueller was going to say about what? Obstruction. Gee, what did we see in this indictment? The O word. And so I just think that it's so important to understand, yeah, it actually matters that Bill Barr's out here saying this, ironically, because he's the very person willing to protect Trump. So he's not willing to anymore. He had a bottom line, and his bottom, the line, it's very low, but it was like, oh, end of democracy. I think I found that as my line. But I do also want to take us back to Chris's points that I think is really important to Florida. Having spent a couple times, both during the midterms and most recently for Florida, is people are resisting in Florida. People are supporting democracy. Black and brown people are trying to vote and trying to help other people vote. Kids in colleges saying we will say slavery and we will stand up to hate. And so we just have to understand they don't own the country. The haters don't own it. We do. Perfect place to hit pause. Rachel Maddow, Alex Wagner, Joy Reid, Maya Wiley, Chris Hayes, Frank Figluzzi, Eddie Brock, thank you all so much for being part of our coverage. And thanks to all of you for letting all of us into your own during this extraordinary day of coverage and history of our country. We're really glad that you worked with us. MSNBC's special primetime coverage will be back tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. In the meantime, we'll be with Ari Melber. So right now, hi again, Ari. I'm glad I let you go because now I remember that you have your own show to anchor.
It's only fair. I'll see you at 8 p.m. Eastern, though.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Thanks to Nicole Wallace and the whole team there doing this coverage. I want to welcome you to Beat to continue the breaking coverage of the first ever federal indictment of a former president. Today, the Justice Department unsealed an indictment of defendant Donald Trump for 37 counts. We're covering this historic and unprecedented development with our legal experts who have been poring over this 44-page indictment since it was first unsealed this afternoon. We heard from Special Counsel Jack Smith for actually the first time ever today. A prosecutor known for his work and today his actions, indicting the former president after about 7 months on the job. And he spoke clearly and concisely about this indictment and national security crimes.
Today, an indictment is exist, charging Donald J. Trump with felony violations of our national security laws, conspiracy to obstruct justice. To understand the scope and the gravity of the crimes charged, our laws that protect national defense information are critical and must be enforced. Violations of those laws put our country at risk. Adhering to the rule of law is a bedrock principle, nothing more, nothing less. My office will seek a speedy trial, but the defendants in this case must be presumed innocent until proven guilty. I would like to thank the dedicated public servants of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. We have one set of laws in this country, and we apply that.
And there you have it. The special counsel acknowledging the FBI, which defendant Trump has attacked, and now the new indictment alleges criminally liable. And Jack Smith emphasized one set of laws applies to all. He urged people to read the actual charges. And I can tell you they dropped today as the ultimate bombshell in this MAGA era. You can see journalists, you're not hallucinating, moments ago on your screen, along with lawyers and news junkies and politicos scouring this detailed and damning narrative that has been unfurled today. And we can tell, although this is a breaking and unfolding story, this is a moment for us, for people in America and probably around the world watching, but we can tell already that this has been happening from newsrooms to living rooms. It's a faster process in most cases because Trump's rush to leak his own indictment and his planned arraignment shifted the timeline of the DOJ move to officially unseal the charges that will formally be filed in court next week. And now, we have it. We can see more than just the number of counts, the 37 being higher than they were last week out last night. We can see the DOJ's view and evidence for what they call the purpose and methods of Trump's criminal conspiracy, the lying, the hiding, the demands to destroy evidence, the pressure on lawyers.
Man, I'm freaking slow.
And the pressure on the lawyers to refuse. Now, this story has detailed contemporaneous evidence about how Trump basically took his own lawyers and, well, failed to get some of them to commit crimes, which turned them into star witnesses. We have more on that later this hour as the DOJ narrates a story of national security crimes made worse by this cover-up and obstruction plot with new receipts. These photos of the contraband, the material Trump took. Secrets carelessly sitting out there on a ballroom stage, quite literally taking center stage. We also have the material that is supposed to be in secure classified rooms, instead oddly stacked up to the ceiling in a bathroom. You can see our nation's secrets right there next to a Mar-a-Lago toilet. Again, just receipts, just facts, make it what you will. Then still documents to rip off the floor. Again, all of this building, along with the other testimonial evidence, the case against Trump. Some of these photos, as you may have noticed, are new today from the Bible. There's a lot of incriminating evidence that has been made. And some of the work is from Donald Trump's own mouth. We were discussing this in our coverage with Rachel and Nicole and the team. And this bears repeating right now before I bring in our lawyers, because we have this now newly revealed tape. And it leaks about it, the media reports about it. But this ain't no leak. We're talking about the actual transcript of the tape, now filed in court, which forms the core of the case against Donald Trump, made by Donald Trump. He admits to He did not declassify a document that he still held unlawfully according to the DOJ. And then on tape, he admits he knows it is too late. Saying, quote, see, as president, I could have declassified it. Now I can't. I'm going to read that twice for you because there's many parts of this filing, but when you are sued to
Guess I could have done a better job blocking Ortiz for you guys.
it was magically declassified everything, but you're secretly caught on tape saying, quote, see, as president, I could have declassified it. Now I can't. You are in a world of hurt. Welcome to the legal case, United States versus Donald Trump. The defendant is presumed innocent and he has rights, but he is facing a mountain of evidence. As promised, we have assembled our lawyers to kick off the Covered in the Beat tonight on what is a night in history. Christy Greenberg was former Deputy Chief of the Criminal Division at the famed SDNY, and Andrew Weitzman served as General Counsel at the FBI as a Deputy in the Mueller probe. Welcome to both of you. You've been working together today, so some of this we've discussed. But I want to begin with the tape and what lawyers call admissions against interest. But what in a courtroom drama or a movie would look like, damn, I can't believe you confessed. Absolutely. So, the way I looked at this was first thinking about the seriousness of what was charged in terms of just the level of classification and the level of obstruction. But then as a lawyer, I went through it thinking, how is this going to get proved? Very much as we used to do when we're in the government. And the detail and the sources from insiders, from employees, from personal lawyers, texts, tape recordings, photographs, none of which can be attacked because all of it is coming from insiders. It's not coming from FBI agencies who say, oh, they're just lying or they planted evidence. And the tape recording is devastating, although it is not the only devastating piece of evidence. And I'll just read to you this from right after the part where he says, well, I could have declassified it, but I can't. So Trump says, now I can't, but this is still a secret. What I love is the staffer responds saying, now we have a problem. What is wrong? Yeah, the problem is like, Mission Control, we have a problem. Yeah, because we now have a classified document in our possession and you knew that you couldn't do it.
Well, that was a crafty way of taking that corner, huh?
By the way, it's okay. Right. Instead of Houston, we have a problem. It's Miami, we have a problem.
Take the inside.
What's so astounding about that transcript is the parts in italics where the staffer is laughing throughout. Like, it's so brazen.
I'm still trying to warm up my tires.
This document is classified, and they're laughing about it. Oh, I could have declassified it, I didn't, ha ha ha. Like, this is really serious. It's a serious document, and he also talks about why. You get some of the motives in that transcript where he says, well, I totally won my case with this document, because General Milley would say, actually, it was Trump who wanted to attack Iran, and I was trying to stop him. And this document, Trump says, this proves he was wrong. I win my case. And it just goes back to why was he doing this? And you think like, oh, okay, it's just petty. It's just him trying to settle scores with enemies, and it just comes across so clearly in that transcript that's towards in the indictment.
Yeah. And what is different about this as well is all of the insider testimony. And this is something that jumped out from the beginning. Andrew and I were looking at the breadcrumbs and the clues leading to this. We knew that Trump had lost lawyers. We lost 2 more today. We knew that the New York Times busted open the story that one of the lawyers on this very case was making tapes to try to protect or with fear himself. So I want to walk through some of this right now with both of you, and for the viewers who may have seen some of this on your phone or some of the MSNBC coverage here on the beat, we want to show you how these reliable sources that Jack Smith is using are the kind of sources most defendants will shudder to see in an indictment. The lawyers are here because Trump's own lawyers are dropping the dime. We see references to Trump Attorney 1, which is Christy Greenberg, from the lawyer that just last night on the beat, we reported on how his emerging role as a star witness that might amount to a Don Green or Don McGahn. Trump saying, I don't want anybody looking through my boxes, I don't want you looking through them. What happens if we just don't respond at all? So don't play ball with the Fed, due to the Fed who's now indicted him.
Yeah, because you're risking going out pretty soon.
Have everything here, which is, of course, a lie, we now know. And then, well, look, isn't it better if there are no documents? Again, from the lawyer, that is an estimation of what Trump said at the time, saying, well, wouldn't it be better if we lied and said there are no documents? Then there are. And we know that he is now charged with a false statement, lie. And then you have this thing we're talking about today, the plucking motion, that is Donald Trump trying to persuade or cajole or legally demand his lawyers to pluck out the bad stuff. And the lawyer says you make kind of a funny motion, like, well, okay, why don't you take them, these secret documents, you don't tell them. If there's anything really bad in there, pluck it out. And he made that motion, he didn't say that, the lawyer explained. We were discussing this earlier in our breaking cover. In these breaking news days, we're all doing the shift work, as you may have noticed. And we were discussing earlier today something that I want to play in its original format. Shout out to Breaking Bad, because there's a moment where you say, do I need a lawyer to defend what I've done in the past? And you have every right to that. Or are you a stone-cold criminal who's looking for a criminal lawyer who's not a criminal defense lawyer, but a lawyer who will be a criminal? Something that overlaps with the new indictment, because what you're about to see is exactly what DOJ thinks Donald Trump was looking for. You want a criminal lawyer, right? You want a criminal lawyer. And so that is exactly what is reported by clearly Evan Corcoran. They managed to get a court order that said that Evan Corcoran has to testify, that he has to turn over his notes. It turns out his notes were quite extensive because he had made tape recordings of essentially recording everything that he could recall that happened. That's the kind of business so detailed. And you basically have Donald Trump saying, first, with respect to the subpoena, there's also the obstruction. Why can't we just say that we've returned everything, as you pointed out? Well, that's a lie. He then goes on to say, essentially, why don't you just do what the lawyer for Hillary Clinton does? By the way, that's not what the lawyer for Hillary Clinton did, but that's what Trump thinks it is. And it's like, can you just get rid of these documents? Just point for me that you do it, because then I won't get in trouble. Which is basically saying, you commit time for me, and get rid of this. And Evan Corcoran, to his credit, is clearly going back, going, no, we need to produce things. And that led to a third type of obstruction, which is you have Donald Trump knowing that Mr. Corcoran is going to be like, I need to look for the documents and we need to turn them over. So what does he do? Donald Trump, with Mr. Nauta, is accused of basically saying, okay, you want to look in this place? Come on in tomorrow and look for the place, and I will just move all the classified documents away. We'll have at it. And then you can issue a certification that says everything's been turned over. But you have to do that because Mr. Corcoran was basically going, I'm not playing ball with you. Again, you're sitting there saying, you want me to destroy stuff for you? I'm not doing it.
It's amateurs, not rookies.
So, it's clear that he's been in the grand jury. It's clear he gave these notes. So if you're on the spot, that they didn't get from this earlier. What's 2 or 3 questions you'd ask? Well, it's not going to be 2 or 3, and I know, but I'm just getting right. First, you're going to take the tape recordings, and you're going to say, are these your notes that you took to record what happened, and are they accurate? And then you're going to go through everything that happened. So there's like
Yeah, Tiger Woods was still pretty good as an amateur.
It's all, look, it's all. This alone is great. I'm sure this is a synopsis to the movie. Would you ask him, well, why didn't you carry this out? Yeah, well, if he's going to say, because I didn't want to lose my car ticket, because I got it wrong. Yeah, the jury potentially, again, we'll follow this through. The jury could hear a Trump lawyer in very, very recent good standing saying, well, I couldn't do that because it was criminal, and that's sort of what was going on in the inside room in secret. Chris, they don't bring you in on another...
And as everybody knows, I'm the quintessential gentleman.
This is supposed to be a factual and legal document. It is not supposed to get into whether a politician contradicted himself. Many do. Or change positions. Many do. And so I'd like to get your analysis of how, as a legal matter, they show that Donald Trump is saying things about classified documents, about the process, about how important it is to keep them safe, which are legally relevant, not just, oh gosh, he's full of it. We actually looked in this document today in preparation for tonight's show, found the audio of some of what is written down. So let's take a look.
I'm going to enforce all laws concerning
the protection of classified information.
We can't have someone in the Oval Office who doesn't understand the meaning of the word confidential or classified.
One of the first things we must do is to enforce all classification laws.
We also need the best protection of classified information.
As of today, for the first time, we stamped that evidence on there. Everything we just saw was selected by Special Counsel Smith and his team as incriminating evidence. People say, oh, well, any of this ever come back again? Like I said, if they're innocent, we'll see what happens at trial. But can you walk us through, as someone who is in the same SDNY, how that is now evidence?
Yeah, these are the ghosts of campaigns past coming back to haunt Donald Trump in this indictment. There are so many statements where he is making clear not only that he understands there is a process to classifying and declassifying documents, but that it's important and you should protect that information. And it's interesting that after the recording at the Minster, where he is talking to the press, members of the press that don't have security clearance about classified information, that's when, right after that, there was a clip of a statement that Donald Trump made in 2017 where there should be shame to people who share and leak this information to the press. So, again, those statements are not only broadly shaping what his knowledge and intent was, but also in that specific example showing he knew exactly what he was doing. He had the intent to share this information. He knew it was wrong, which is what you need to prove in a criminal case.
And briefly, if that's in the filing, would that material potentially be played directly to a jury?
Absolutely. You're going to play those recordings. You're going to want to hear in his own words what he knew and what he understood.
Really fast, Christy Greenberg, you've been with us more than once on the beat this week because your expertise is in demand. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Andrew, it's not my line. As Nicole and others would say, you don't get to go anywhere.
It's too early to get out drawn into races.
Right, and we appreciate it. So Andrew, say thank you. Let me tell folks what's coming up. I have a deeper dive on the conspiracy evidence. But first, the dramatic move from a federal prosecutor who did what no one has ever done in America before, indicting a former president. What does this mean, and what is history recording tonight? We're back with Mile Wiley and Andrew in 60 seconds.
This is Sadie. She's on Verizon, and she has the new My plan, where she gets exactly what she wants and only pays for what she needs. She picks only the perks she wants and saves on everyone, all with an incredible new iPhone. Act now and get...
Yeah, I've been looking. Kyle Lamy has ticks on the road where every board is, so...
We talk about cash backing. We talk about cash backing.
We talking about cash, man. We talking about cash. Not again. We talking about cash back. We talking about cash back. We're not talking about a game. Cash back like a drug. But Chase, Freedom Unlimited. How do you cash back? Chase, make more of what yours.
With Verizon Business Unlimited, I get 5G, truly unlimited data, and unlimited hotspot data. So no matter what, I'm ready.
Make the switch. It's your business. It's your Verizon.
Welcome back to our special coverage. Here's the question. When will federal defendant Donald Trump go on trial? Special Counsel Smith unsealed that indictment today and vowed a speedy trial.
My office will seek a speedy trial in this matter, consistent with the public interest and the rights of the accused.
Speed seems to be important to him. The indictment came just 7 months after Smith took over this post when Attorney General Barr appointed him.
Today, I signed an order appointing Jack Smith to serve as special counsel. The extraordinary circumstances presented here demanded. Mr. Smith is the right choice to complete these matters in an even-handed and urgent manner.
There you have it. It hits a little different now with everything we know. There's Donald Trump, the prosecutor, that he knew had experience, including prosecuting corruption cases against politicians, including Democrat John Edwards. And had to escape. Smith served as a tough war crimes prosecutor at The Hague, where he faced down a sitting foreign president's effort to obstruct and undermine him. Now, Smith is certainly not very famous across America, but Garland clearly viewed him as someone who would fearlessly follow the facts. One colleague recounts that Jack Smith doesn't like to sit there playing with his food, a phrase that refers to getting the job done. Or as Sean Carter mentally put it, I checked cheddar like a food inspector. My homie always told me, finish your breakfast. Today Smith's showing he is finishing this meal, if you will, and not playing with his food. You want proof? Look no further. At the very end of today's filing, where history is made, and Smith quite literally swears and signs his name to getting the ultimate job done. As promised, we add to our panel my widely esteemed, I believe, your license. Don't play with your food. Finish your breakfast. Get the job done. Many ways to say it. What did we learn about Jack Smith today?
Jack Smith don't play. That's it, that's on that. First of all, did you see his face?
Yeah.
I don't know Jack Smith, but I don't want to be on the other side of the table from Jack Smith.
He's a really nice guy.
I don't care.
Yeah, we're not talking about his off hours. We're talking about his on hours.
I'm eating at the restaurant.
He's all business.
He's all business, he's all focus. He made it very clear. You talked about, I agree with you, he set the table. The meal's about to get and Donald Trump's on the plate.
And Donald Trump is going to be cooked. Again, I like to say he's legally privileged, and we'll afford him his defense. We've had Tim Parlatore on this show recently, who was part of this team on the classified documents case. He made several arguments, including, well, maybe all the bad stuff Trump said was a lie. The other thing I think we see, Maya, is that Jack Smith was clearly, and I say this with regard to what the DOJ must do, which is be reasonable, he was clearly open to an off-ramp. Had there been full cooperation, even with the documents there, it seemed earlier on they didn't rush to search. They had contact with the federal side, that's all the paperwork stuff, and then the lawyers. But when Donald Trump basically thought, what are they going to do? Search my home and indict me, it seems that Smith had no problem going down that road if he needed to.
Well, yeah, he went down pretty quickly once he was appointed. I mean, I think that's the point. I think the Department of Justice, and remember that the Attorney General is taking a lot of heat for not just jumping in on Trump.
Yeah, it was a nice recovery after his start.
What we said is we're going to follow the evidence.
You got your pit in?
Where it leads. And then we saw that happen very quickly, because I would argue this was very quick in light of how often we see long criminal investigations, because prosecutors don't like to lose, and they want to make sure that they're bringing a strong case and have all the evidence.
It never feels good to be out of the force.
There's a lot of evidence in this document. They clearly did follow it. I just want to say, you're right.
I don't know why, but I don't have that problem.
It's innocent until proven guilty. But this document says you got a lot of proof.
Yeah.
And I give it a slightly positive toe setup.
To everybody, and you made it clear to the public that we've got it.
Yeah. What do you think we learned about Jack Smith's work product here? Because you are close to Twitter, Andrew, you do know him. But you may remember there was almost a political and civic sort of folk hero, elevation of Bob Mueller. And people who said, well, if you're looking to do what the rules don't allow, or what the opposition party or impeachment is supposed to do, that's not his job. And obviously you're involved in that because you work with him. But Smith, with a different moment and different powers, seems to be the most aggressive prosecutor across the things. Well, actually, also Jack has the ability to indict him, because he's no longer the president. But to your point, just remember before Jack was appointed...
I have to drive like this because I'm making the hour-and-a-half drive tonight on one set of tires.
And if the president had simply responded the way his vice president did, which is to say, oh, I didn't realize I had these, here they are, and didn't then obstruct justice.
Nope.
The exact same resolution that
But our pit stop is a splash and dash if you want to take it, so it doesn't have a minimum time. So I can do about a 4-second pit in there, and then it means I'd have to lose like almost 30 seconds or so to make it not worth it.
Because he tried to both do the witch hunt thing, and we understand politically why he might do that, but he also tried to do the factual thing, and it was interesting. That part of his contortion was the point you're making, Andrew. that while we see this as aggressive, and I'm curious if you think this will matter in trial, if the jury will see this, aggressive but reasonable is different than recklessly aggressive. And the offer is...
Last week I gained 3 positions by being the only one who didn't take tires.
Absolutely. I agree with you. I mean, that's a great analogy because, you know, it's like choose a lane, pal. I mean, you gotta, what do you say? You probably like it better than all the Jay-Z stuff. Much better. Absolutely. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly. Jack said to your point, Maya, is, you know, he got this case inherited from the Attorney General, and he has, by all accounts,
I did an hour at Imola, and my fastest lap at the race was the last one on the same set.
But it does tell you something when you look at the sources. When he is lined this up, to your point, it is with insiders. It's with his personal attorneys. It's with...
I may not be good at anything else, but I'm good at saving tires.
It's hard to challenge. I'm looking at Liz and I as you, as the former prosecutor, going, how are you going to attack this? And I'm now looking to the January 6th case, thinking he's going to be able to do the same thing by going to insiders and getting that kind of information. And this is really quite good. It's after this.
Well, that was that thing on actually Maya, which we talked a little bit less about today because we started with all the big stuff. But here as we go through this in depth, I wanted to turn to the conspiracy piece because you can't play tennis.
You're good at being a human.
You can't play chess alone. And you can't conspire under law alone. And so one of the big questions here has been, where's the conspiracy? Given the way across the line that that was going to be charged, which would have been complicated in its own way, although potentially viable, but they didn't do that. The conspiracy, it turns out, according to DOJ, was someone that most Americans also haven't heard of, but someone who was endlessly lying to the point that we have transcripts of him apparently blatantly lying. We've seen people get into trouble on Trump's behalf before. So our panel stays here, and I want to look at this part of the indictment. This is someone that, if you haven't heard, you're going to hear a lot more about. Trump's personal aide, they will not. He's now indicted for hiding classified documents for conspiring 6 felony counts, which include the false statement I just mentioned, obviously authority, the conspiracy to obstruct justice, and him being kind of, for whatever reason, however you get this Keystone Cop kind of position or fixer position, of all the people on that property, he was the one that Donald Trump was directly working with to actually physically move the stuff, not allegedly moving dozens of boxes of sensitive documents to conceal them, as mentioned from one of the attorneys. Trump basically, the decode what's on your screen, Trump figured out that even the attorneys might not help him with the lie. So he needed this guy to do the lie earlier in the chain of custody and lie to the attorneys.
So let me know while he was behind me. I'd have kept him behind me longer.
Without the attorney's knowledge that he's lying to the attorney. This is like the conspiracy behind the cover-up. But they use phones, so now they're texting another Trump employee. This image we showed you earlier tonight. So this is from the now indicted co-conspirator when he was going through stuff like, there's a bunch of these documents which our boss said that he has either pretend to exist, a lie, or move and hide a lie, or possibly destroy a lie on a separate crime. The DOJ says this was not them going wrong, this was at Trump's threat. Gamata had denied knowledge of the sensitive documents. The FBI, who was part of what Jack Smith went out of his way to praise today, the work of the FBI and law enforcement, well, they questioned him. They got the goods on him. They got the receipts. He's facing, really, if you went to the max, technically, although if you wouldn't go to how usually it's sentenced, we're up to technically 20 years in prison for some of those counts. Maya, this is a new character here late in the season arc, and they're a pivotal one in the season.
So this is, Walt Nada comes out in this indictment like Matthew Calamari and Russell Byrd and the Trump organization, his henchmen, the trusted body people always around.
Yeah, it can get very expensive.
And then always protecting them. In this case, it's, Trump gets a subpoena on May 11th. Then he has his conversation on the 22nd by phone with Nada for 34 minutes, and then Nada goes and moves boxes. And then on May 22nd, they have 23rd, they have another conversation. The attorneys come. Trump talks to Nada on the 24th, 30 minutes, and then goes and moves boxes. It's like every time there's this activity between getting the demand from the government and or conversations from lawyers who are supposed to be searching for documents, he's talking to NAPA, and then NAPA's running a moving document to them. And that's when we go from the 64 boxes, and then suddenly there's 30 boxes. And so it's very clear, this is his guy.
Yeah, his guy, and there's something so strange about, while the stakes are high for anyone who's security or secret position abroad in public service or the spy could get exposed by it, those stakes are high. But then at this point, some of this is actually quite remarkably petty, amateurish, and trivial. And so they're reminded of, like, if you Shakespeare, it reminds me of storytelling. By the time Richard III is really about to be done, he's not fighting for land anymore, he's not fighting for an army, he's fighting for a horse to escape. A horse, a kingdom for my horse. And here you have Trump, who had the nuclear code and was commander-in-chief, whatever one thinks of him, not all that long ago. And he's gone from overseeing an entire international military to now, according to DOJ, conspiring with one dude who used to be in the military. I don't know if that helps or hurts him, but he did it. Conspiring with, allegedly, one dude to go move boxes around to undermine, according to DOJ, the very military he used to run. I mean, is there something that is sort of a petty Shakespeare about this?
Other sort of, just to bring that note is when he says to corporate, essentially, why can't you do what Hillary Clinton did with her lawyer? And that just to me was like, can somebody rid me of this metal for the priest? Clear wars, he's saying. But here, this is the problem, is that people, it may be that Donald Trump doesn't use email, or he does speak, and his words are coming back to haunt him. But the employee 1 and 2, devastated, because it's sprinkled throughout here is employees 1 and 2 talking about what they're supposed to be doing and what Walt has told them to do and what Fox needs to do. So this is not just a witness we're calling. This is the kind of stuff that we do like, okay, you not only have the witness, but guess what? They're corroborated. And now here's another witness. And there's no reason for sort of very junior, low-level people who are going to be called to the stand to be lying about this, especially since they're going to be corroborated by their own text messages about what was going on. So, this is one where Walt must be incredibly loyal to Trump, because if you're a defense lawyer, you have a conversation which is, you are going to be on the wrong side of the feud. Meaning it's going to be the United States versus, you want to be on the United States of that equation, not on the other side.
Yeah, and you said about don't recall, and Maya, we've all learned and seen all the various tricks. Part of what he said in the false statements are the kind of things that people might ignorantly think they could get away with, but not when the DOJ has this much evidence. So just reading through the indictment, which the DOJ called a lie, when asked whether the Miller Trump's boxes had been stored before they were in Trump's residence, which is after the DOJ showed meticulously how they were moved. There's a lot of evidence that was obviously moved over there. Now to falsely responded, quote, I wish I could tell you. I don't know. I honestly just don't know. What makes that a crime, Maya?
The evidence they actually did not. I mean, it's really that straightforward. Yeah. Exactly. And so, and this is what Andrew's point about, and then the people can cooperate. He actually knew, because they're having exchanges with him about what Trump's wants and where the documents should be. And then so suddenly for him to say, just I know. It just lacks all credibility in light of that other evidence. I mean, so if you have to put those two things together and that's where you nail it. But I think this would be the interesting thing, because I think Andrew's right. Why he hasn't flipped already? Because every sane person would. But we have seen this in Trump orbit. And that was my point on Trump orbit. Why are the wizard lifers for Trump? Lifers Island. That's some real loyalty.
Well, it's one thing, and also, who's paying for their counsel and keeping somebody within the tent. Let me give you a little tip. When somebody answers something by saying, well, honestly, my antenna is going to go up. I mean, you don't need to say that. It's Zoom. To me, it's always a tell that there may be a problem.
That's fair. Well, I'll tell you honestly, I have only 20 seconds. I have 20 seconds left. What's Jack Smith going to do tonight?
I think that the big sort of upcoming issue is...
No, I mean tonight.
I'm telling you, what, did you have a beer? Did you have champagne? He is trying to figure out what he's going to do with Deputy Judge Cannon. Not a good draw, and I think they're probably trying to figure out what their strategy is.
Tried to take that a little too quick.
But you wouldn't expect to see him out with a team or a meal.
No, not at all. All of that's going to happen internally. I don't think he's doing that.
There you go. It's great to hear way around that. I appreciate both of you on a truly historic night.
And you're not having this story? You could Jerry G and Shakespeare on the same show.
On the same show.
Look at stuff in indictment both.
And I still got my eye roll. You know? You did. All three. It's a trifecta. Thanks to our legal eagles. I'm sure you'll be seeing more of them throughout our coverage tonight and in the coming days. We're going to break, but coming up, we're going to get with evidence about the top secret information, the threat to national security, how this could play on the larger scale. And later, I want to show you, as we think about what's going on in America, how some of this is playing out and being responded to as an actual international news event, which makes sense. From Jamaica to the UK, that's coming up. Stay with us.
Power E-Trade's award-winning trading app makes trading easier. With its customizable options chain, easy-to-use tools, and paper trading to help sharpen your skills, you can stay on top of the market from wherever you are. E-Trade from Morgan Stanley. Power E-Trade's easy-to-use tools make complex trading less complicated. Custom scans help you find new trading opportunities, while an earnings tool helps you plan your trades and stay on top of the market. E-Trade from Morgan Stanley.
What's going on? You trying this? Of course. But my old internet is not letting me run the show. So we switched to Verizon Business Internet. They have business grade internet nationwide. Take the switch. It's your business. It's your Verizon.
I will be a travel influencer. Hey, I thought you were on vacation. It's too expensive. Use Priceline. They've got deals no one else has. What about work? I got you. Okay, great, you guys.
Do we have happy price? Priceline.
I walk away with some unfinished business. Just not good luck. You have to have a pretty controlled fist. Are you ready? I feel it.
It terrifies me.
I thought you were going to catch me. Let's be okay.
As someone living with type 2 diabetes, I want to keep it real and talk about some risks. With type 2 diabetes, you have up to 4 times greater risk of stroke, heart attack, or death. Even at your A1C goal, you're still at risk, which if ignored could bring you here. Maybe become one of those, or even worse. Too much? That's the point. Get real about your risks and do something about it. Talk to your healthcare provider about ways to lower your risk of stroke, heart attack, or death. Learn more at getrealaboutdiabetes.com.
What are folks 60 and older up to these days? Getting inspired.
Well, I'm hearing.
Playing pickleball.
Hiding unsightly toenails, then you need Knives Fungal Nail Clarifying Gel. It's money back guaranteed. With Knives, 90% of nails improve. For clear, healthy-looking toenails, buy Knives at Walmart, Rite Aid, CVS, and Walgreens.
With Verizon Business Unlimited, I get 5G, truly unlimited data, and unlimited hotspot data. So no matter what, I'm ready.
Take the switch. It's your business. It's your Verizon.
I'm over 45, I realize I'm no spring chicken.
I know what's right for me. I got a plan, delicious thinking.
My doc wrote me the script. Box came by mail, showed up on Friday.
I screamed the color hard and did it my way.
Cologuard is a one-of-a-kind way to screen for colon cancer that's effective and non-invasive. It's for people 45 plus at average risk, not high risk. False positive and negative results may occur. Ask your provider for Cologuard.
I did it my way.
In intuitive simple start and the all-electric ID4. It's the little things. It's a VW.
I love shopping the real deal. It's Gucci, Prada, all your
Very It's luxury events up to 90% off retail.
It's 10,000 new arrivals every single day, and they've all been authenticated. It's keeping it sustainable.
It's finding something one of a kind. It's whatever you want it to be.
Thousands of new arrivals daily, up to 90% off retail.
The Real Deal, where luxury is yours to define.
Shop now and get 20% off at therealdeal.com. Terms apply.
You really think you can get me to like dark chocolate?
Without a doubt.
Won't it taste bitter?
Not this dark chocolate.
Delicious. I told you it wasn't bitter. The moment Mexican Tapatio. Discover excellence. Expect delicious.
You would look through history in a very real sense.
Don't think I damaged anything important.
Federal indictment of a former president, Donald Trump, charged with 37 counts. Among them, 31 counts of something that you are just not allowed to do no matter who you are if you have been in government and are no longer there, and that is intentionally retaining, aka taking or stealing, national defense information. And that is what he stands now federally indicted for, based on what he did at Mar-a-Lago. The indictment has these damning pictures and receipts. Some of them are photographs taken by Donald Trump's own co-conspirator. We were just discussing that moments ago. And some of them show how Donald Trump haphazardly stored a document that concerned, quote, the nuclear weaponry of the U.S. Another document dated of 2020, so pretty recent, concerned, quote, nuclear capabilities of a foreign country. Several other documents contain information related to foreign military operations and capabilities, as well as U.S. military contingency planning. For much of the beat tonight in our special coverage, we've discussed...
I've been having issues with extreme fatigue, and my mind and body are starting to check out now.
But sometimes that conversation, which is how this case will live or die, and is how it will be adjudicated whether Donald Trump spends years or...
Yeah, there's another bit of rest before it.
While those things matter for those reasons, there's a wider end that we turn to now, and that is something that is truly scary, abnormal, and should not be normalized. This misuse, allegedly, of so much top secret and nuclear-related information by a citizen who was warned, who was told, who admitted it, and continued brazenly doing it. For that conversation, we are joined by two individuals with national security experience in and around these issues. We have a former U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, who's tried national security cases, and also as a former law enforcement official and a former police officer, David Kelly, also full disclosure, my former boss, and someone who served in the Obama and Biden administration's press secretary at one point for the current president, Jen Psaki. Welcome to both of you.
Thanks, Ari.
Thanks for having us in.
Yeah, I'm going to start with Jen. No offense, David. But when we talk White House national security, Jen, you're an example of someone who has both been called upon by the president himself to deal with the public, to deal with public information, to deal with the press, and yet I'm sure you've been in rooms with people who knew things you didn't or had policies they had to follow. What do you see as important here, not so much in the legal, but in the security side?
Well, I think there were plenty of things I knew myself, or any White House spokesperson, press secretary would know that they also don't say publicly, because you do have access to a great deal of classified information. That was also true when I was at the State Department. There are briefings, right, every day in the White House, every day in the State Department, nearly every day in the Defense Department. They do not share classified information publicly. They know when to not cross that line. What's separate to me, not on the legal front, you have many legal eagles, including yourself, to explain that, is even on the second page of this indictment, it has some pretty jarring language about the classified documents Trump stored in boxes, including information regarding defense and weapons capabilities of both the United States and foreign countries, nuclear programs, and then, since this is publicly available and used conveyed, pages 28 through 33 outline in detail the specific documents, right? And some of the mentions there, you've mentioned a couple of them, but there's references in terms of classification to Five Eyes documents, which means documents that were shared with our Five Eyes partners, which is a very specific intelligence sharing partnership, one that's vital, one that you need the trust to continue with.
And also, it's not entirely clear if this is intelligence all about the United States or about the capabilities of other countries that he could have just left hanging around at Mar-a-Lago. We don't know that, but that it seems possible in the way these are identified here. So that all stuck out to me and was pretty alarming.
Yeah, I appreciate how you're putting that. And David, people watching you right now are seeing your face and Jen's face above headlines like Trump stole war plans. Trump retained nuclear secrets. I wonder whether the slow drip and discussion of this at times...
I caught that corner there. I'm going to let you go on the inside.
...to the law, which we discussed, is a problem for the United States? Where do you come down on that?
Well, when I was running terrorism and before I became a U.S. attorney, I would walk into a room sometimes after a briefing or coming out of a skip and think to myself, and I'm sure Jim's had the same feeling, looking around the room and thinking, if people knew what I knew, they probably would be wearing diapers right now. And people need to really appreciate this, how important this information is, and to be so cavalier about it, which is so meticulously painted in this indictment, is really scary. And people have to appreciate the fact this isn't a game. That people die because of the failure to abide your solemn oath to protect this information. And if you can't trust a government employee to do that, then they should be put in jail if they're, and I just think that the fact that he's been so irresponsible, so reckless, so cavalier about this, is just really alarming. And so, I don't know if that answers your question, but people really need to appreciate the severity of this, how important it is.
Yeah, the severity, and that goes to the battle he's in with the FBI, law enforcement, national security figures, and what I would call colloquially reality, Jen. Because he and part of the movement that he stoked, we see that in the live with the January 6th, some of which were obviously defamatory, among other things, is a movement now, not wholly, I'll say, the Republicans have other reasons for supporting, but many, many people in the pulpit MAGA view the lies and the trolling and the completely amoral approach to all facts and national security concerns as part of their, whatever you want to call it, flex, dominance, all the language we hear. And so I want to play something we put together on the beat tonight that reminds people how we got here and what the offenses were and how each one as it came out looked worse and worse. Because back on Planet Reality, this is bad stuff, regardless of how you vote or which ideology you might associate with. This is bad stuff at the much more fundamental level. Take a look.
Yeah.
The judge has now ordered Trump's lawyer to come before them and break attorney-client privilege.
They must share private notes, audio files, different memories about what Trump said. Federal prosecutors are in possession of an audio recording from nearly 2 years ago.
Trump, it says that he has a classified Pentagon document describing a possible...
Yeah, him passing you has no bearing on your position.
Flooding a room where computer servers containing surveillance video logs were kept.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, Ari, in terms of how we got here, we knew from the beginning of the Trump presidency and even before that he has huge admiration, love sometimes, for authoritarian dictators. And if you look at what he bragged about documents, letters that Kim Jong-un sent him. He's bragging about war plans. I mean, these are things that he wants to look like a strong man here. What is alarming to me, and we don't know the answer to this yet, and we may never know the answer, is why do you want these specific documents? There's some specificity here. I don't know, we don't know entirely that this was random. So why do you want that Iran, that plan, that contingency plan on how we would strike Iran? Who might be interested in that? You know who might be interested in that? Saudi Arabia. You know who he has a lot of financial interest in? Saudi Arabia. So we don't know the answer to that, but there is a lot of questions here about why these specific documents, who may have seen them, and to go back to David's point, this is not partisan at all. I mean, this is about protecting the national security interests of the United States, something Democrats and Republicans have done as presidents and people who work for them for many, 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 many decades. And that's important to remember, too.
I agree with Jen, and to venture into kind of the legal part of this, one of the meticulous as this indictment is, and it really creates a very tight box for him to get out of. The one thing that you really need to prove in a criminal case is the motive. It's not a legal element, but it's a jury issue. And that's actually maybe the more salacious part of the case, and Jen alluded to some of those issues. Was this for his own personal, ego aggrandizement, or was this so he can advance his own business interests with places like Saudi Arabia? They haven't gotten into that. I don't know that they will. And typically in a criminal case you need to, but again, this case I think is he's so boxed in with the way this indictment is, they may really not have to focus too much on the motive.
Yeah, funny you mention that. I'll put up on the screen again from the new indictment what they are telling the court and what would be part of the case against Trump, the United States versus Trump, that you have the military capability of a foreign country and the U.S. Among the kind of info that he took. You could have get rid of a foreign country's support for terror acts against the U.S., the military operations against the U.S. that goes to risk and assessment abroad, as well as we showed in other headlines.
Man, quite a spacey race going on behind Jelly and Gregorelli.
David, you have taken us back into the law, which is okay on a day like today. I'm curious then what you make of why they did take the tape, which alludes to motive. The prosecutors don't lay it out, but on that tape regarding the book related to Mark Meadows, we see a portrait of Donald Trump first, worse than anything, aware that he can't be classified anymore and he's holding he's allegedly holding contraband. But second, we see someone who is in a petty personal way trying to settle a score with U.S. government secrets that aren't his. So the motive of that particular exchange, one among however many, is explored, David.
So I guess two things that kind of jump out at me, what you said and what we're thinking about, which is his narcissism, which we all know, which really speaks to kind of settling the score. And the second part is what Jen was talking about, appeasing foreign countries for his own personal business interests. Which, turning to Saudi Arabia and says, hey, I've got some really good stuff where you can do business together. I would quickly think that a former president of the United States would be going to engage in that, but we're in new territory, so who knows?
John Brennan certainly answered me earlier this week.
I like Mount Panorama.
Saudi Arabia, probably because of all the attention on the LIV golf tournament. But Putin and the Russians would also love to have access to information about any.
I had that planned properly.
Attacking Iran, because Russia and Iran have also developed a closer relationship.
As long as you stayed on the racing line, you were safe.
Here again, we don't know now. We may never know. But they are interesting to explore and follow, especially given the level of detail in this indictment. I mean, there's 7 or 5 pages that are just listing point by point the documents, and they make a clear point that this is a part of the fact. So that's not a legal point. That's just something that stuck out to me as I was reading it.
Really interesting, hearing from both of you here, as we said, partly the law, the national security law, but also people who've been in these rooms and been very mindful about the rules, the laws, as well as the security of the United States. So, David Kelly and Jen Sashi, thanks for both of you. And then remind everyone, Jen will have more this weekend on Inside with Jen Psaki. That's Sunday at noon right here on MSNBC. Finally tonight, I mentioned this earlier, as we think about what we are living through, this history being made today. And I wanted to show you just briefly, since we are in the newsroom, how this federal indictment is making headlines and being received around the country. The New York Times puts it simply, Trump is indicted over classified files, with that rather dramatic and partially obscured photo on the front page. The Daily News notes it's a second indictment, indicted again, just like the 2 impeachments. Chicago Sun-Times reports Trump is the first former president to face federal charges, the point we've emphasized tonight. The United States has now indicted its former leader. That was a first. Well, there are headlines all over the world. This is one of the largest stories we're seeing on the planet right now. These are just a couple of foreign examples. And we've been tracking all this. You may feel like, gosh, a lot's happened since, well, almost exactly 24 hours ago. It was about 24 and a half hours ago. And here's how it played out when the news broke on American television.
He says that he's going to appear in court in Miami on Tuesday at 3 o'clock.
Donald Trump says on Truth Social that he's been indicted.
This is something we've been watching for and waiting for.
The problem for Donald Trump facing these federal charges that carry years in prison is that he did it and he admitted it.
We are now the kind of country where a former president has been criminally indicted by the federal U.S. Department of Justice, and that has never happened before. And you don't want to be that kind of country if you don't have to.
No, you don't. And here we are. And if you follow the news, you probably understand quite deeply how significant this is and why this case is different. For your friends or other people who are busy living their lives or trying to make a living and wondering why it's different, in summation tonight, the United States, through its independent Justice Department, has indicted its own former leader. This is not New York versus the former president. This is not a local prosecutor. This is not a congressional committee, which, while lawful, has a different set of interests. This is the U.S. indicting someone who was president and who is currently seeking to become president again. The stakes could not be higher, but when the rule of law works, we approach it fairly and factually, and that is what the Justice Department is calling on the jury when they get it and everyone else to try to do. There's a lot more coverage for you tonight, including special coverage at 8 p.m. Eastern, led by Rachel and the team. But first, keep it locked when Lee takes over after this.
This is Sadie. She's on Verizon. She has the UMI plan, where she gets exactly what she wants and only pays for what she needs. She picks only the perks she wants and saves on every one. All with the incredible new iPhone. Act now and get iPhone 14 Pro on us when you switch. It's your Verizon.
I've been taking balance of nature for...
Yeah, those are not... You'll need to get rid of those.
Everyone fruits and vegetables. You can't go wrong. Balance of nature makes me feel better. And it gives me more energy. One of my passions is going up the Cedar Mountains, watching the grandkids, running great, and they will do it because of balance of nature.
Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com to get free shipping. And don't forget, get 35% off your first preferred order by using discount code LOVE.
When you have chronic kidney disease, there are places you'd like to be. Like here. And here. Not so much here. If you have chronic kidney disease, Farxiga can help you keep living life. And Farxiga reduces the risk of kidney failure, which can lead to dialysis.
Farxiga can cause serious side effects, including dehydration, urinary tract or genital yeast infections in women and men, and low blood sugar. Ketoacidosis is a serious side effect that may lead to death. A rare, life-threatening bacterial infection in the skin of the perineum could occur. Stop taking Farxiga and call your doctor right away if you have symptoms of this bacterial infection, an allergic reaction, or ketoacidosis.
Farxiga can help you keep living life. Ask your doctor for Farxiga for chronic kidney disease. If you can't afford your medication, AstraZeneca may be able to help.
My asthma felt anything but normal. It was time for a new normal with Nucala. Nucala is a once-monthly add-on treatment for severe symptomatic asthma that can mean less oral steroids, not prosthetic breathing problems. Allergic reactions can occur. Get help right away for swelling of face, mouth, tongue, or trouble breathing. Infections or concussion both have occurred. Don't stop steroids unless told by your doctor. Tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection. May cause headache, injection site reactions, back pain, and fatigue. Ask your asthma specialist about a new normal with Nucala.
Like you want my design business? Works. But my old internet is not letting me run the show. So we switched to Verizon Business Internet. They have business grade internet nationwide. Make the switch. It's your business. It's your Verizon.
Tomorrow, NBC News celebrates extraordinary people inspiring America. Individuals who unite, empower, give to others, and change the game. The 2023 Inspiration List. Tomorrow at 8 p.m. on NBC.
I stand here where a democracy is fighting for its right to exist. But there are no borders to this battle. When democracy is under attack, as journalists, it's our duty to shine a light on what's happening.
Imagine making premium cocktails at the touch of a button. Introducing Bartesian. From the comfort of your own home, you can enjoy quality ingredients and the premium poise you'd expect from a cocktail lounge. Simply insert the capsule, select your strength, and enjoy.
Get 100 dollars of complimentary cocktails now only at Bartesian.com/drinks.
We are continuing to follow the breaking news of this historic and, quite frankly, damning indictment released to the public today, laying out the special counsel's case against Donald Trump and his gross mishandling of classified documents. Given that this is the first time such actions are being taken against the former president, the special counsel made sure he came prepared with the receipts, and they could not be any more incriminating. In all, the special counsel is charging Trump with 37 counts. 31 of them have to do with Trump's willful retention of national defense information, otherwise known as the Espionage Act. These are charges related to false statements, conspiracy to obstruct justice, withholding and corruptly concealing documents, as well as scheming to conceal. Included in some of those charges is one of Trump's closest aides, Walt Nauta, who was also indicted. Also today, we heard for the first time from the man leading the special counsel investigation, Jack Smith.
Our laws that protect national defense information are critical to the safety and security of the United States, and they must be enforced. Violations of those laws put our country at risk. Adherence to the rule of law is a bedrock principle of the Department of Justice. And our nation's commitment to the rule of law sets an example for the world. We have one set of laws in this country, and they apply to everyone. Applying those laws, collecting facts, that's what determines the outcome of an investigation.
The special counsel spelled out the national security risk posed by the documents Trump took with him. Quote, the classified documents Trump stored in his boxes included information regarding defense and weapons capabilities of both the United States and foreign countries, United States nuclear programs, potential vulnerabilities of the United States and its allies to military attacks, and plans for possible retaliation in response to a foreign attack. The unauthorized disclosure of these classified documents could put at risk the national security of the United States, foreign relations, the safety of the United States military, and human sources, and the continued viability of sensitive intelligence collection methods. For all of you out there, like myself, that did not go to law school, let me be clear about the U.S. code Trump is being charged with under the Espionage Act. It does not matter whether those documents were classified or not. It does not matter whether Trump twitched his nose at bewitched and said to himself, they are classified. It only matters that they refer to national defense, which they clearly do. And throughout this indictment, we are learning even more about Trump's involvement every step of the way and how careless he was with these documents. Counter to Trump's lawyer's claims, the indictment points out that Trump was personally involved in the process of packing up the boxes when he left the White House. And while Trump and his lawyers claimed the documents were secure in a storage room at Mar-a-Lago, they forgot to mention that for months upon arriving at his Florida club, they were actually left out in the open, on the stage of a ballroom, in which events and gatherings took place, as well as in a bathroom and a shower.
And